May 1945. Germany no longer exists as the world knew it. The cities are skeletal ruins. The roads are rivers of ash, and the sky carries the smell of burnt wood and abandoned hope. In a destroyed train station somewhere in Bavaria, a group of women waits. They don't know what they're waiting for, they just know the war is over and they lost. Lotte Weber is 24 years old. For 3 years, she operated radio equipment for the Luftwaffe, intercepting enemy transmissions, translating codes, feeling useful. Now, she stands among the rubble with muddy boots and a grey coat that no longer keeps her warm. In her hands, a small leather notebook, the only possession she managed to keep. Inside it, orders and observations, numbers, frequencies, lists, everything that gave her life structure. Around her, other women. Some cry. Others stare at nothing. Greta Hoffmann, a military nurse with tired eyes and calloused hands, tries to organize the group. Ingrid Vogel, barely 19, clutches a soaked handkerchief and whispers prayers no one listens to anymore. Then, the sound of engines. American trucks emerge through the fog. Soldiers jump down. Young men with clean uniforms and weapons still loaded. They shout commands in English. The women don't understand the words, but they understand the gestures. Hands up, walk, move. A line of men is pulled from another building. Former SS officers, former guards. They're placed against a wall. The women hear the shots. 4, 5, 6. The sound echoes like a drum marking the end of something. Lotte closes her eyes. She thinks, we are next. But the order doesn't come. Instead, they are pushed toward trucks. No explanation, no trial, just movement. Greta helps Ingrid climb up. Lotte writes in her notebook, her hands trembling. They say it's peace. But everything smells like death. The trucks drive for hours. Then, a train. Not a passenger train, a freight train, with wooden wagons and gaps in the walls where wind cuts through like blades. The women are packed inside, 50, maybe 60 bodies pressed together. Some faint, others vomit. Lotte stays near the wall, clutching her notebook, trying to maintain control over something, anything. Through the cracks, she sees Germany disappearing. Forests, rivers, churches with broken towers, villages where no one waves, the landscape of defeat. At night, the train stops, silence. Then distant bells, church bells. Someone outside is celebrating. The war is truly over. Inside the wagon, nobody celebrates. Greta leans close to Lotte and whispers, "Do you think they'll kill us when we arrive?" Lotte doesn't answer. She opens her notebook and writes by the faint moonlight coming through the cracks. "We were taught that the enemy had no heart, that they were monsters. Now we are in their hands, and I don't know which is worse, dying as we expected, or surviving to discover what we truly were." The train starts moving again. The sound of the wheels on the rails is rhythmic, mechanical, indifferent, like the sound of history closing a chapter and opening another, one where they no longer belong. Outside, the bells keep ringing. Inside, only silence and the smell of fear. The Atlantic Ocean is larger than fear itself. Lotte discovers this, standing on the deck of an American transport ship, surrounded by grey water that stretches to infinity. The vessel cuts through waves with mechanical precision, carrying hundreds of German prisoners toward a destination nobody dared to name aloud. Below deck, in the cargo hold converted into makeshift quarters, the women sleep on metal bunks, stacked 3 levels high. The air smells of salt, vomit and unwashed bodies. Lotte counts the days in her notebook. 7 days at sea. 7 days waiting for punishment that never comes. Instead, something stranger happens. Every morning, American sailors bring food. Not scraps, not moldy bread or watery soup. Real food, white bread, canned meat, powdered milk mixed with water. The first time Lotte sees the tray, she thinks it's a mistake, or a trap. Greta takes a piece of bread, examines it carefully, smells it. The other women watch in silence, waiting for her verdict. She bites, chews slowly. Her eyes widen. "It's real," she whispers, but Lotte refuses to eat. She sits on her bunk, arms crossed, staring at the bread as if it were a weapon. Ingrid does the same, loyal to invisible orders from a regime that no longer exists. They're trying to break us, Ingrid says, making us dependent, making us forget. Greta loses patience. She grabs the bread, tears it in half, and forces a piece into Lotta's hand. Forget what? The hunger, the defeat. We already lost everything. Don't lose your life too. Lotta looks at the bread. White, soft, still warm. Her stomach twists with hunger she'd learned to ignore. Slowly, she brings it to her mouth. The taste is unbearable. Not because it's bad, but because it's good, because someone who should hate her gave it willingly. She chews, swallows, and feels something crack inside her chest. That night, unable to sleep, Lotta climbs to the deck. The ocean stretches endlessly under a sky without stars. The ship's lights reflect on the dark water, creating the illusion of depth without bottom. This ocean is the border between two worlds, the one that died and the one she doesn't understand yet. A young American sailor stands nearby, smoking. He notices her but doesn't speak, just nods. Lotta nods back. They share the silence like a temporary truce. She thinks about the bread, about the soldiers who could have let them starve but didn't, about the fundamental difference between cruelty and its absence. The Reich taught her that enemies were monsters, but monsters don't feed their prisoners. Monsters don't nod respectfully in the darkness. Back below deck, she opens her notebook. Her handwriting is smaller now, uncertain. Today I ate bread given by the enemy. It was the best bread I've tasted in 3 years. This terrifies me more than death. Because if they are not monsters, then what were we? The ship continues cutting through the Atlantic. The sound of the engine is constant, hypnotic, like a mechanical heartbeat, carrying them toward an unknown shore. Somewhere behind them, Europe burns. Somewhere ahead, America waits. And between both worlds, Lotta floats, suspended in the grey space between guilt and survival. The American South in summer is a furnace. Lotta steps off the truck into air so thick with heat it feels solid. The prisoner camp stretches before her, rows of wooden barracks, wire fences, guard towers under a sky bleached white by the sun. This is not what she expected. No execution walls, no torture chambers, just buildings and dust and oppressive heat. Margaret Doyle, a civilian coordinator with grey hair pulled tight and eyes that miss nothing, addresses them in broken German. You work. You eat. You follow rules. Simple. The women are assigned to the laundry facility, a large shed with concrete floors, industrial sinks, and mountains of dirty uniforms, American uniforms, shirts stained with sweat and dirt, trousers caked with mud, the fabric of the enemy. Lotta stands before a metal basin filled with cold water. Beside her, dozens of other women begin scrubbing in silence. The supervisor, a middle-aged American woman with thick arms, demonstrates the process. Soap, scrub, rinse, wring, hang. She doesn't smile, doesn't speak unnecessarily, just shows them the work and walks away. The water is shockingly cold, despite the heat outside. Lotta plunges her hands in and gasps. The cold shoots up her arms, sharp and clarifying. She grabs a shirt, olive green, size large, anonymous, and begins to scrub. Her movements are mechanical at first. Dip, scrub, rinse. But gradually, something shifts. The rhythm becomes meditative. The sound of water splashing, fabric rubbing, women breathing. It creates a strange symphony of labor. Greta works beside her, efficient and silent. Ingrid struggles with a heavy pair of trousers, her thin arms shaking with effort. Nobody speaks. Words feel unnecessary here. Then Lotta feels something hard in a shirt pocket. She reaches in carefully and pulls out a small object, a mirror. Compact, metal frame. The glass is cracked down the middle, creating 2 distorted reflections instead of 1. She stares at it. Her face looks back, divided, fractured. One eye slightly higher than the other. Her mouth split by the crack. She hasn't seen herself clearly in months. The image is disturbing and hypnotic. Water drips from the shirt onto the mirror's surface, distorting the reflection further. The cold droplets slide down like tears she hasn't allowed herself to cry. An American guard passes behind them, Sergeant James Miller, young, quiet, with careful eyes. He notices Lotte holding the mirror but says nothing, just nods slightly and continues his rounds. Lotte tucks the mirror into her pocket and returns to scrubbing, but something has changed. The water running over her hands feels different now, not just cold, purifying. Each shirt she cleans, each stain she removes, feels like an act of confession. She's washing the enemy's clothes, she's caring for the fabric that covered the bodies of men who defeated her country. And it doesn't feel like humiliation, it feels like the first honest work she's done in years. Hours pass, the pile of dirty uniforms shrinks, the clotheslines fill with clean fabric swaying in the hot breeze. Lotte's hands are raw and wrinkled from the cold water. Her back aches, but her mind is strangely quiet. That evening, alone in her bunk, she takes out the cracked mirror, studies her divided face, opens her notebook and writes, "Today, I washed their clothes with cold water. My hands are frozen, but I feel clean for the first time since the war began." Routine becomes a strange kind of mercy. Wake at 6, roll call at 6:30, breakfast, oatmeal, coffee, sometimes an apple, work from 7 to noon, lunch, work again until 5, dinner, free time until lights out at 10. Lotte discovers that structure, even imposed by captors, brings unexpected comfort. The days blur together in a rhythm that feels almost normal, almost safe. The laundry work continues. Her hands grow accustomed to the cold water. The other women become familiar presences, not quite friends, but companions in survival. They learn each other's breathing patterns, work speeds, silent signals. Greta hums while scrubbing. Ingrid still flinches at loud noises. A woman named Clara cries every Tuesday for reasons she never explains. On Thursdays, they receive small payments, coins counted carefully into rough palms, 25 cents per week. Lotte stares at the American quarters, heavy and foreign. She saves them in a cloth pouch, not knowing what else to do. They're also permitted to write letters home, once a month, heavily censored. Lotte writes to her mother in Hamburg, not knowing if the address still exists, not knowing if her mother survived the bombings. She keeps the letters short, factual, emptied of emotion. "I am alive, I am healthy, I work, I hope you are well." Greta receives a letter back, the first one any of them has gotten. She reads it aloud in the evening, her voice cracking. "We are eating herbs from the garden. Sometimes the neighbors share potatoes. Your father's cough is worse. We pray for your return." The words hang in the air like smoke, herbs from the garden, while here they eat meat twice a week, bread every day, fruit when available. Lotte feels the guilt settle deeper into her bones, a weight that no amount of washing can remove. That night, she saves half her dinner roll, wraps it carefully in cloth, and hides it under her mattress. She doesn't know why. Perhaps planning to send it home, though that's impossible. Perhaps punishing herself through deprivation. The bread grows stale over days, then moldy. She finally throws it away, ashamed. The camp has a radio in the common area. In the evenings, American music plays. Jazz, swing. Sounds that feel dangerous in their lightness. Most women avoid it. But Lotte finds herself drawn to the doorway, listening from the shadows. One night, Ingrid catches her there. "Enemy music," Ingrid hisses. "How can you listen to that?" Lotte doesn't answer immediately. She listens to the saxophone winding through complex melodies, the drums keeping impossible rhythms. It's nothing like the marching songs or Wagner operas she grew up with. This music breathes differently, loose, improvised, free. Even their music is clean, she finally whispers. Ingrid stares at her with something close to horror, then walks away. Later, lying in her bunk, Lotte hears it, the sound of water dripping somewhere in the building. Steady, persistent, like a clock counting down to nothing. She thinks about the cold water in the laundry basin, about the clothes she cleans every day, about the mirror still hidden in her pocket, its cracked glass reflecting a woman she no longer recognizes. She opens her notebook. Her handwriting is changing, looser, less rigid. We lived by orders. Now I follow different orders from different voices, but for the first time I wonder, What would I do if no one told me what to do? Who am I without commands? Outside, crickets sing in the southern night. Inside, the water keeps dripping, and Lotta lies awake, counting drops instead of days. 3 months into captivity, the women are loaded onto trucks for external work detail. Margaret Doyle explains in her clipped German that they'll help at a local farm, harvesting, sorting, general labor. The guards will accompany them. Any attempt to escape means immediate return to harsher conditions. Nobody plans to escape. Where would they go? The farm belongs to an elderly couple, the Johnsons, who lost their son at Normandy. Lotta learns this from whispered translations, from the black-bordered photograph visible through the farmhouse window. She expects hatred, expects to be treated like the enemy who killed their boy. Instead, Mrs. Johnson brings out a basket of apples. "Eat, girls," she says simply, her voice rough with age and accent. The women stare. Fresh apples, red and green, still cool from the cellar. The kind of fruit that disappeared from Germany years ago, replaced by rationed beets and turnips. Greta takes one first, as always the brave one. She bites, and her expression transforms. Surprise, pleasure, pain all mixing together. One by one, the others follow. Even Ingrid, after long hesitation, accepts the fruit. Lotta holds hers carefully, feeling its weight, its smooth skin. She thinks about her mother eating garden herbs, about the stale bread she hoarded and wasted, about the fundamental injustice of a world where the defeated are fed better than the victors. She bites. The taste explodes, sweet, crisp, alive. Juice runs down her chin, and suddenly, inexplicably, she's crying, not sobbing, just tears streaming down her face while she chews, while the sweetness fills her mouth, while her body remembers what abundance feels like. Nothing should be sweet after a war, she whispers in German. Greta, standing beside her, doesn't translate, just puts a hand on her shoulder. They work through the afternoon, picking late summer vegetables, sorting produce, clearing irrigation ditches. The labor is hard but honest. Mr. Johnson works alongside them, his movements slow but steady. He doesn't speak much, neither do they. But there's respect in the shared silence. Sergeant Miller supervises from a distance, leaning against the truck, observing but not interfering. His presence is constant but not oppressive. Lotta notices how he watches them, not with suspicion or contempt, but with something closer to curiosity, sometimes sadness. During a water break, Mrs. Johnson offers them lemonade, real lemonade, cold and tart and impossible. Ingrid refuses, standing apart with arms crossed, but the others drink. Lotta feels each sip like a small betrayal and a small salvation simultaneously. On the drive back to camp, nobody speaks. The truck rumbles over dirt roads, past fields turning golden in late afternoon light. America spreads around them, vast, undamaged, incomprehensibly wealthy. A country that lost sons, but not cities. That knows grief, but not apocalypse. That night, Lotta takes out the cracked mirror. She's cleaned it carefully over the weeks, though the crack remains. She looks at her reflection, still divided, but somehow more whole than before. Her face has filled out slightly. Her eyes are clearer. She opens her notebook, the pages now softened by constant handling. Today a woman whose son we killed gave me an apple. It was the sweetest thing I've tasted in 5 years. They are not monsters. They are not even particularly cruel. They are just people, which means we were just people too. And that makes everything so much worse, because people chose what we became. Outside, crickets and distant voices. Inside, the sound of everything she believed slowly cracking apart. Winter arrives gradually in the American South, not the brutal cold of German winters, but a gentler chill that makes mornings sharp and evenings long. The women have been prisoners for 8 months. Their bodies have recovered. Their clothes fit better. Some even laugh occasionally, surprising themselves with the sound. But Ingrid has not changed. She remains thin despite the food, rigid despite the routine softening. She still refuses the radio music, still writes letters filled with coded loyalty to ideas that no longer exist. She watches the other women with increasing suspicion, as if their adaptation were a form of treason. One evening in the common area, the tension breaks. Greta is mending a sock, American-issued, warm, practical. She hums absently, some melody picked up from the radio. Ingrid stands abruptly, her chair scraping loud against the floor. How can you sit there so comfortable? How can you forget? The room goes silent. Other women freeze, watching. Forget what? Greta asks quietly, not looking up from her needle. Germany. What they did to us. What we're supposed to be. Lotte, sitting nearby with her notebook, feels something ignite in her chest. She stands slowly, facing Ingrid across the room. What was Germany supposed to be, Ingrid? Tell me. Because I remember what it became. Ingrid's eyes flash. You were proud once. You served the Luftwaffe. You believed. I believed lies. Lotte's voice is steady, clearer than she expected. I believed we were superior, that our enemies were subhuman, that our cause was righteous. And where did that belief take us? To ruins, to mass graves, to standing in front of American women who feed us even though we don't deserve it. We fought for our country. We fought for monsters who used our country as a weapon. Ingrid steps closer, trembling. So you've given up, accepted defeat, become their servant. Lotte meets her eyes. I've accepted the truth. That's different. The truth? Ingrid laughs bitterly. The truth is they won. That doesn't make them right. No, Greta interjects quietly. But it doesn't make us right either. Ingrid looks around the room at women in American-issued clothes, with American-filled stomachs, with faces that no longer carry the sharp edges of starvation and terror. She sees betrayal everywhere. You've all forgotten, she whispers. You've let them win twice. First the war, then your souls. She walks out into the cold night. Later, Lotte sits on her bunk, the cracked mirror in her hands. She's kept it all these months. This fragmented reflection found in an enemy's pocket. Sergeant Miller appears at the door of the barracks, holding something. He approaches silently, respectfully, extends his hand. It's the mirror, but repaired. Someone has carefully taped the crack from behind, reinforcing the glass. It's still broken, but it holds together now. Functional, whole enough. He says nothing, just nods and walks away. Lotte stares at the mirror. For the first time, she sees her face undivided. The crack is still visible, a scar running through the reflection. But both halves align now, creating a single image instead of two competing ones. She opens her notebook, her handwriting now fluid, no longer the rigid script of orders and observations. The enemy returned my face to me, not perfect, not unbroken, but whole enough to recognize who I was and who I might become. Ingrid is right about one thing. They have won twice. They defeated our armies, then showed us mercy we never would have shown them. And that second victory is the one I cannot escape, the one that forces me to see clearly. Outside, Ingrid stands alone in the cold, staring at fences she could climb but won't. Inside, Lotte holds a mended mirror and finally sees herself completely. January 1946. Snow falls on the camp, rare for this part of America, but heavy enough to cover everything in white silence. The announcement comes during morning roll call. Repatriation orders. They're going home. Some women cry with relief, others with fear. Home is not what they left. The letters have made that clear. Cities flattened, families scattered, hunger worse than when they departed. Germany is no longer a country. It's a graveyard with borders. Lotte packs her few belongings into a canvas bag provided by the camp. American-issued underwear, a warm sweater, the cloth pouch with saved coins, her notebook, now filled completely, every page covered with observations that transformed slowly into confessions, and the mirror, cracked but mended, wrapped carefully in a spare shirt. The shirt is also American, olive green. She'd kept one from the laundry detail, washed it privately until it no longer smelled of anyone else. It's the cleanest thing she owns. Margaret Doyle distributes documents, identification papers, travel permits, official stamps validating their existence. She shakes each woman's hand firmly, without sentiment but with unmistakable respect. Good luck, she says simply. The trucks arrive at dawn. The women board in silence, watching the camp recede, the laundry building where cold water taught them humility, the barracks where they learned to sleep without nightmares, the fence that kept them prisoner and strangely safe. At the train station, American soldiers help them with luggage, a different train this time, passenger cars, heated, with actual seats. The contrast to their arrival is almost violent. Lotte remembers the freight wagon, the gaps in the walls, the certainty of death. Now she sits by a window with a blanket and a paper bag containing sandwiches for the journey. Sergeant Miller appears on the platform. He walks slowly along the train, nodding to women who recognize him. When he reaches Lotte's window, he stops. Their eyes meet through the glass. He murmurs one word, home. Lotte opens the window despite the cold. Struggles with English she's learned in fragments. Maybe, she answers finally. He smiles slightly, the first time she's seen him smile, touches his cap in salute and walks away. The train whistle blows. Steam rises into frozen air, mixing with snow and breath and the smoke of a country that rebuilt while hers collapsed. The wheels begin to turn. Lotte watches through the window as America slides past, farms and towns, factories and churches, a landscape untouched by bombs. She thinks about the apple, the bread, the cold water, the mirror, about enemies who were taught to hate her but chose differently. She opens her notebook to the final blank page. Her hand is steady. The war is over. Germany awaits, broken, hungry, ashamed. I return not as I left. I carry American coins, American clothes, and an American mirror that shows me a face I'm still learning to recognize. I carry knowledge I cannot unlearn, that the enemy had every reason to destroy us and chose mercy instead, that humanity persists even after we abandoned it, that some wars end on battlefields, but others continue inside the soul. The train moves forward, but I still hear it, the sound of cold water over my hands, washing away more than dirt. That sound will follow me home. It will follow me forever. She closes the notebook. Outside, snow continues falling on a world trying to forget. Inside, Lotte holds her mended mirror and remembers everything.